KASSIP, Kuwait Automated Settlement System. What has changed and what are the objectives behind this change? Join us in this episode of the Central Bank of Kuwait podcast as we take a closer look at this topic. Welcome to this podcast by the Central Bank of Kuwait. Through this podcast, we will highlight key banking topics that have a direct impact on individuals and society. In today's episode, we will discuss the outcome of extending the operating hours of the Kuwait Automated Settlement System. Every day, millions of payment transactions take place across Kuwait, whether at retail outlets, online, or through bank-to-bank transfers. We see these transactions completed within seconds. But behind this seamless experience are advanced financial systems that ensure funds move securely and with finality between banks. One of the most important systems enabling this process is the Kuwait's Automated Settlement System for Inter-Participant Payments, known as KASSIP. In April 2025, the Central Bank of Kuwait announced the extension of KASSIP working hours, including its operation during weekends. This marked a significant milestone in the development of payment systems in Kuwait. To help us understand the changes, we are joined today by Arwa Abdirrida, who will walk us through how KASSIP works, the changes that were introduced, the reasons and objectives behind extending its working hours and operating it during official holidays, and how these changes benefit individuals, businesses, and banks.
Thank you for having me, and welcome to our listeners. My name is Arwa Abdirrida, Payment System Operations Specialist. Today, I will explain the key changes introduced to the Kuwait's Automated Settlement System for Inter-Participant Payments, KASSIP.
Before we get into the recent changes, let's start with the basics. What exactly is KASSIP?
KASSIP is a real-time gross settlement system that processes payment transactions and net settlement transaction results from other settlement systems in a secure and timely manner. Let's say you transfer money today from your bank account to someone at another bank. The funds will reach within seconds, right?
That's right.
Have you ever thought about how the funds actually move from your bank to the other bank? This is where KASSIP plays a critical role. First, the customer initiates the transfer through his or her bank's application. The bank then sends the transfer details to KASSIP. KASSIP validates the transaction data and ensures that the sending bank has sufficient funds with the Central Bank of Kuwait. Once verified, KASSIP debits the amount from the sending bank and credits it to the receiving bank. As a result, the funds appear in the recipient's account promptly and securely.
So, in simple terms, KASSIP acts as a central link connecting all Kuwaiti banks and ensuring that interbank transfers are both fast and reliable.
Exactly. And this process applies not only to transfers, but also applies to any payment transaction between two different banks. For example, when you pay by card at a merchant whose account is with a different bank, the same settlement process takes place. The difference is that these transactions are typically lower in value but higher in volume, so they are aggregated and then settled through KASSIP.
I noticed that all the mentioned examples involve two different banks. What about transfers between two accounts within the same bank? Do these also go through KASSIP?
No. Transfers within the same bank are processed internally and do not require settlement through KASSIP. You can think of it as moving money from one pocket to another. There is no need for an external system to validate the transaction.
Recently, we've read several press releases about extending KASSIP operating hours. What do operating hours mean?
Operating hours refer to the official time window during which KASSIP settles interbank transfers and transactions. Any transfer initiated during these hours is processed immediately. Transactions made outside those hours are deferred to the next business day.
What were KASSIP operating hours before the recent changes?
Previously, KASSIP operated only on official working days, from 8 a.m. to 1:30 p.m. Transfers made after that time or during weekends or public holidays were processed on the next business day. So, for example, a transfer made on Thursday afternoon would only be settled on Sunday morning.
So, what has changed since then?
The operating hours were extended gradually and in phases over nearly 2 years. KASSIP now operates to 11:15 p.m. on regular business days, as well as weekends and official holidays. As a result, transfers that were previously deferred are now processed on the same day.
So this means that I can now pay my rent or transfer money on Friday and it will be received instantly without waiting until Sunday?
Exactly.
Why was the extension implemented in phases and on a gradual basis?
KASSIP is a critical national system. A phased approach allows performance monitoring and evaluation at each stage, ensuring that all participating entities are fully prepared and that each phase operates smoothly before moving on to the next phase. This approach reduces operational risks and aligns with the international best practices for operating similar systems. To give a simple example, when a restaurant is about to open, it often starts with a soft opening and operates for limited hours at first to make sure that the staff and kitchen are fully ready before opening completely. KASSIP, however, is a critical national system, which makes gradual operation implementation even more essential, as any disruption could have a wider impact.
What are the benefits of extending the operating hours?
The extension allows interbank transfers to be completed over longer hours, without waiting for the next business day. It also reduces reliance on cash and gives users greater flexibility in managing their financial assets and obligations.
How does this actually make a difference for individuals?
It makes a real difference in daily situations. For example, if someone needs to urgently transfer funds to a family member late at night, the transfer now goes through instantly as long as it is made before 11:15 p.m. Previously, it would have been deferred to the next business day. Another example is settling financial obligations during official holidays, such as Eid. Previously, these payments would only be processed on the next working day. Now, they are processed immediately, provided the transfer is made before 11:15 p.m. There are many other examples. We could easily dedicate an entire episode just to this topic.
That is indeed a tangible outcome that people will clearly experience and benefit from. What about businesses and companies? How does this extension benefit them?
It gives businesses and companies more time to settle payments and ensure completion before the end of the day, allowing their operations to run smoothly. To give a practical example, a foreign investor who needs to transfer funds related to contracts or transactions in Kuwait now has a much wider time window to do so. With the extended hours, including weekends and official holidays, investors can complete their transfers easily and without time pressure.
And how does this benefit banks?
The extension provides banks with greater flexibility in managing liquidity and daily transactions. In short, extending KASSIP's operating hours enhances banks' operational efficiency and supports their financial stability.
Can you share some figures that reflect the outcomes of extending the operating hours?
Yes, we can look at the average volume and value of transactions executed after the previous system closing time.
Great. And what do these figures show?
They show that a significant portion of transactions is now being processed after the previous closing time. For example, the average daily number of transactions executed after 1:30 p.m. is 11,376 transactions, with an average daily value of 406,943,000 Kuwaiti dinar. These transactions account for 36.8% of the average daily transaction volume and 29% of the average daily transaction value. Under the previous operating hours, all of these transactions would have been deferred to the next business day.
Did the extension also include other payment systems besides KASSIP?
Yes, the extension covered other payment systems as well, such as the Kuwait Electronic Check Clearing System, which now accepts check presentment until 7 p.m. and replies till 8 p.m., and the Kuwait Electronic Banking Services System, which now operates until 10:30 p.m.
Thank you, Arwa, for joining us today and for your valuable insights into how payment systems support smooth and secure financial transactions. Before we wrap up, would you like to share a final message with our listeners?
I hope I was able to clearly explain how payment systems work and the purpose behind extending their operating hours. For those interested in knowing more about payment systems in Kuwait, you can visit the Central Bank of Kuwait's website at www.cbk.gov.kw, where a dedicated page is available on this topic. Thank you for having me.
And with that, we come to the end of this episode. This was your host, Shifa Al-Awadi. Thank you for tuning in.